Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Friday. I hope all of you are good and I hope all of you are staying warm. This is literally the coldest night of the year we've had so far in Michigan, and it's going to be almost 50 degrees next week. So go figure. That's the weather, right? That's the old saying if you live in Michigan. And as I've traveled the country, I think everybody has this saying. If you don't like the weather, just wait a day, right? Because it's definitely going to change. And in this case, we're going to have about a 50-degree temperature change within the same week, which is pretty much nuts. So, anyways, it's good to be here with all of you guys tonight. I appreciate you being here, and I'm going to do what I usually do. I'm going to offer some encouragement, and I'm going to challenge all of you. Because as I said last week, just look at it like it's the peak of a mountain. We're literally right there, guys. We're literally right on the tip of it. Because we've actually had quite a few victories lately. Yeah, we actually have, and that's okay to acknowledge that. And that's good because we do need the good energy to feed off of because we also have, as we call them, the other side. People who live here and they want the benefits of being an American, but yet at the same time they hate America. They're getting mad right now and they're pounding harder and harder. And tyrants are doing what tyrants do best and trying to become even more tyrannical every day. And if you look at the title of this stream, I often cite, and I'm going to say it again right now, at the founding of this country, Benjamin Franklin was asked, what do we have, sir? Do we have a republic or a monarchy? And he said a republic, if you can keep it. And he meant that then, and he meant that every year in between. And I think he meant that right now, probably more than ever, because this country, in many aspects, is trying to stray away from being a republic and trying to go into tyranny as much as we've ever seen before. But at the same time, I see people fighting harder and harder every day. And I'm meeting more and more good people every day. And there's a lot of us. And you're a very, very important. You guys all need to know that right off the bat. And you need to remind your friends of that too. I'm meeting lots of good people that are getting smarter and smarter. And we have a lot going on our side because if we didn't, the other side wouldn't be going so crazy right now. Just think about that. The Second Amendment. Yeah. The Second Amendment was written down, 1789, ratified, codified into law as part of the Constitution in 1791. And we do have a Second Amendment, which does not grant you your right to keep and bear arms. These are laws of nature and of nature's God. And your rights are endowed by your creator, not Ben Franklin, not George Washington, and certainly, absolutely not by the current former vice president. But we do have it on a piece of parchment paper. And what does it mean? Well, it means as much as you're willing for it to mean, quite frankly. And we have to defend that piece of paper, not just because it's a beautiful quill written down on a nice piece of parchment paper, preserved under several feet of glass. And it is a beautiful document, and I do appreciate it. But we need to fight for it because, look, in 1776, 1791, it was a battle of good versus evil. In the year 2023, guess what? It's what it's always going to be, a battle of good versus evil. And it's about power, and it's about good people needing to prevail. And I hate to quote him, but he was right on one thing. Chairman Mao of China, of the Cultural Revolution, one of the biggest despots of all time, so many millions of people, tens of millions, possibly 100 million people died under this Cultural Revolution. And we'll never even know how many. And all of those people were just as important as you are that died during that. And we need to look at history. And Mao said, all political power comes from the barrel of a gun. And the King of England knew that. And the Founding Fathers knew that. And the current former vice president knows that. The AFT knows that, and you know that. You need to remind your friends of that. That's why we have the Second Amendment. And although I love the entire Constitution, the Bill of Rights, I love the Second Amendment the most because it was put there for when, which is right now, for when they come for all the rest. They're coming after the freedom of speech. They're coming after the right to peaceably assemble. Look at people that are still on a hole. They're in a dark hole right now on bread and water. Don't even have a trial date set because they went into a building that was opened up by the police. And most of those people were peaceably assembling. Look at what's been going on YouTube with gun channels lately. Where, in my opinion, with Section 230 protections, this is a public square and speech has been stifled. And we need to reject all of that. And the reason why they're coming after our guns has always been simple, and it still is, and you need to think about that. We're peaceful people. We don't want any problems. We all just want to be left alone, right? And that's why we're in the trouble we're in, because people are just like, leave me alone, whatever. A piece of paper says shall not be infringed. Well, that's not quite good enough. And we do just want to be left alone, of course. However, why would they want to take our guns? Except for, obviously, if they want to literally tread on every other natural right that was endowed by your creator, and quite frankly, put you through a hell that people would fight back against if they could, but they don't want you to fight back. And if you look at what happened in that Reich, that was supposed to last 1,000 years. Luckily, America came along, or we'd all be speaking German right now. No disrespect against Germans, but I didn't necessarily want that type of socialism to last 1,000 years, obviously. He confiscated the guns. Go back to the Cultural Revolution in China with Chairman Mao. Yeah, he also confiscated all the guns. Look at Venezuela when they confiscated all the guns, and then they tried to do corrupt confiscation of the energy, where at one time they had a per capita wealth that was very similar, if not exceeding, that of the United States. And in just a few decades after they confiscated the guns, people are eating out of garbage trucks. Eating their animal because first they couldn't afford to feed their pet. And then when they couldn't afford to feed their pet anymore, they also couldn't afford to eat themselves. And a lot of times would have to eat their dog. Things like that have happened literally in our lifetime. And it's literally happening right now. And they say there's probably more people enslaved right now than there was in the 1800s or the 1700s, quite frankly. There's evil all around us, and we know that. But that's what makes America different. That's what's supposed to make America different. And people say, look at the founding fathers. They fought. Lexington, conquered. Yeah. And I'm glad they fought so that I can live in the United States of America right now and get to hang out with all of you. But they did a lot more than that. Because if they would have just ran willy-nilly into the bridge at Concord or onto the green pastures of Lexington, just willy-nilly with guns, with no solidarity, with no plan, if that was the only thing they were willing to do, I probably wouldn't be telling this story right now. Because history is literally written by the victors. If you win, your story matters and it's told. If you lose, your story gets buried and hidden and lost to the sands of time. And on a philosophical level, it should matter. But the reality of things is, if you lose, you don't matter anymore. So we wouldn't have even known what would have happened if the founding fathers would have lost. And that's why I said that in the title of this stream. If you won't call, you're not going to fight. And if you want to win, which I want to win, I want to keep this republic. I want the Second Amendment to be preserved and protected, not by the bulletproof glass, but by me and you. And it's impossible. You can't win if you don't play the game. And I mean this is encouragement to all of you, because I think we need it right now. Because we have Moms Demand Action. We have Bloomberg. We have all of these people we call on the other side. They're coming at us hard right now. They're really mad about a couple recent court cases, which I'll discuss briefly in just a little bit. And they're literally coming at us with all they have because they're good at unifying. The hive mind, which we don't want to have the hive mind. We want to be individuals. And that's why I like to start these conversations to spur on a discussion so you guys can talk, so you can think of ways to talk to your friends in your hometown, your friends on the internet, your family, people at church, school, the grocery store, wherever. I want us all to think, but we have to get behind something here. And we need to get behind the Second Amendment like we never, ever, ever have before, literally right now. Yesterday's over with. Today's almost over with. But like tonight, tomorrow, and every single day. Because they're literally trying to destroy it. And there's a lot of people that claim to be within the Second Amendment community. and this so-called gun community, which sometimes can be the same people, but sometimes not. There's a lot of people that love guns that, quite frankly, hate the Second Amendment. It's hard to understand, but it's actually true. And the longer I keep doing this channel and my several channels, I'm on a bunch of platforms. Make sure you guys check the link down in the description in case this channel literally vanishes tomorrow. Locals, Rumble, Utreon, Odyssey, okay? Look, I'm noticing a pattern. And I don't know if it's growing, but it's just there. It keeps persisting. Where people so-called that are one of us, they're trying to deter people like me and people like you from fighting the good fight. And as Shakespeare said, a rose by any other name is still a rose. And I don't know if that's applicable to everything in life, but I think it's applicable to this. If you look like a rose and you have thorns like a rose and you smell like a rose, you can call yourself whatever you want, but you're not productive to the fight that I'm fighting, and you're not productive to the fight my friends are fighting. So try not to be discouraged from those people. It's called the black pill. It's also often called agent provocateur. It's just different things, but things aren't always as they seem, especially not on the internet. I don't mean that to scold anybody who doesn't agree with me. I mean that to offer encouragement to all of you. Just think about it. Use your common sense. If you're not going to play the game, there's literally zero chance you're going to win. I don't think that's my opinion. I think that should be obvious. And this is my opinion, but I want your opinion too. I'm pretty sure I'm right, but I could be wrong on the second thing I'm going to say here. If somebody's not going to make a phone call or several phone calls to their representatives, to people in their hometown, form a rally, have a peaceful protest. Look, when I say call, that means many things. If you're not going to do that, they're not going to fight. Not Lexington and Concord style. And I was talking to my friend on the phone earlier tonight, before this stream started. He's a United States veteran, Marine Corps. And I said, I wonder if you could go back. And some of you guys might be able to literally answer this for me, because part of the people can't answer. There's another large group that actually can. And it might include some of you. If you took people that were on the battlefield at Gettysburg, we can't ask them, they're not alive anymore, but you can read their journals. If you look at the people on the battlefield of Lexington and Concord, they're not alive anymore either, but we can read their journals. If you look at people that stormed Normandy, some are still alive, not many. If you look at people that fought in Vietnam, people that fought in Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan, and they were involved in battles, like on the actual battlefield, combat, and they watched a lot of people die. Now, that's happened a lot, obviously, right? And if you were to ask those people that you can still ask today, which please chime in if this includes you, but I'd really rather know the opinion of the people that are dead, that I can't dig them up and ask them. But if you were to survey 100 people that were on a bloody battlefield, and either they lost limb, permanently disabled, mentally scarred, mental health is just as real as physical health, they watched their brothers and sisters in arms on the battlefield die. And they saw their families grieve for that. I'm painting the scenario I'm talking about, right? War's not a pretty thing. I don't know as much about it as people that served on the battlefield, but I do know this. It's a very traumatic thing. And some of the toughest people in the world are like, no, I don't desire that. People that have been through it are like, because I was through a bloody battle, I don't want to have to do that again. But if you were to survey people and say, if you could have written a letter, if you could have called your congressman, called your state representative, called your state senator, if you could have called some friends and got them together to mobilize for this cause, if you could have done all that to prevent having to have been on this battlefield, and if you could ask the people that died in battle, if you could have done that to prevent dying, and if you asked their widow, if you would have just written some more letters and made some more phone calls, would have they done it? I think the results would probably be 90, 99%, if not almost 100%. Let me know what you think. I read all of these. I read this whole transcript of the chat afterwards. And I'm interested to hear your opinion on that. And I think we can look at the actions of the founding fathers and know what their answer was, obviously. Because they didn't just wake up one day. The battles actually started in 1775, not 1776, around May of 75, when the shot heard around the world, so-called, went off. And then it was declared on paper about a year later. We know that the minute that the what would become the founding fathers, at that time they were actually loyal British subjects. We know that the first day they got mad, or the first week, or the first month, or the first year they got mad. We know they didn't just rush out to the battlefield. And me and many historians and anyone who's actually looked at the history knows that we wouldn't have won if we would have done that. And they knew that then. And they also knew they didn't want to have to fight a bloody battle. Not against their fellow countrymen. See, we have to look back, and it might seem abstract, but it's true. They were actually fighting their own people. Just think about this for a minute. It wasn't Americans fighting British. It was British fighting British. It was very similar in so many ways. It's not even funny, and nothing about this is funny at all, actually. It's one of the most serious topics that exists. It was actually not too much different in many ways than our United States Civil War. They were still legally on paper and still had the heritage and culture of Great Britain. And they were literally physically British subjects, and they were fighting other British subjects. They didn't just do that overnight. You know what they did do, though? When they came over here that would become America, to form these colonies, they were looking for a better place where they didn't have to live under the tyranny of the King of England. And in so doing that, they decided what form of government that they would want. And it was so eloquently and beautifully written down on July 4th, 1776 by Thomas Jefferson, when he was a relatively young man in his 30s, by the way. And they didn't just sit there and say, let's fight right this minute because we're mad at this. No, they were mad at for decades. Many of them, most of them were ticked off, and that was the reason why they were over here. No, they actually wrote letters to the King of England. And they peaceably assembled. And they brainstormed and they got together and said, what's wrong here? What's our grievances here? What are the issues that we have? And these were major issues. And they actually worked on this for decades. Not for a minute, not for an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year. Decades, actually. So first you have to have a plan, and luckily for us, we still have a plan in place. It was written down on parchment paper with the Declaration of Independence, with the Bill of Rights, with the United States Constitution. So we actually have like a huge advantage over the founding fathers who had to draw it all up from scratch. So when people say, I'm not going to write, I'm not going to call, I'm not going to do anything, because that would be weak. I'm such a tough guy, I will only physically fight. See, over 60% of people, when they're polled right now, want like another revolutionary war or civil war. I'm not calling for that for all the people watching on YouTube. I'm just stating what's been published, well acknowledged in the media. I'm actually saying I don't want that. And I hope that never has to happen. But even if it did, which apparently the majority of the people think it does, you're going to run out there and do what? What's the plan? What have the American people, or at least half of us, whatever it would be that we consider us, that wants liberty, that wants to preserve this republic, as Ben Franklin challenged us and encouraged us to do, where's the tie that binds? And I'm going to say it again because I feel like saying it to so many comments I see on the internet. I say, but what is your plan? And I would argue, literally, if somebody says, I refuse to acknowledge that we have a Congress. Well, first of all, how could they even be an American? How could you not acknowledge Congress when it's literally one of the three branches of government that was enumerated and specifically spelled out in this great document that we all claim to love? So when people start off saying that, I actually just dismiss them summarily. I don't dismiss them as human beings, but I dismiss their arguments. When someone says, well, hold on, if you write a letter to Congress, you acknowledge they exist. Well, yeah, of course they exist. That's part of what this country would be, a representative republic, where you would have representatives that would go to Washington, D.C. to suit your needs, to represent you as you see most fit, that would affect your safety and happiness. That's literally what our government was founded on, at least 1/3 of it. We would have an executive branch and we would have a judicial branch. I've even had people lately say, if you actually root for Supreme Court rulings, or if you even acknowledge these court victories as wins, that you're not an American. Well, hold on a minute. When you read the United States of America founding documents that I read, clearly the courts are part of the fundamental foundations of this country. That is part of preserving this republic. So if you actually believe in America and you want America, look at what the founding documents actually say. Now, the way things are enacted nowadays, obviously, is a perversion of the founding documents. And they're giving way more power to the government. Almost seems like infinitely more power to the federal government than what it was ever supposed to have. And I agree with everybody on that. But people that say that they not only disavow what's going on right now, which I disavow almost everything going on right now. Literally, it's insanity out there. I get it. And smart people get it. But if you literally say you disavow that we even have a Congress, and you disavow that we even have a court system, and you disavow everything, then these are people that actually want something different than America. And if that's what they want, hey, maybe they'll fight and maybe they'll take us over. Maybe they could go move to another country that has that form of government. I don't know. But I don't buy it as a valid argument if we want to save America and save this republic, that we should literally condemn all of the building blocks and cornerstones that this republic was built on. Something interesting to think about. And there's people that say that they want to abolish these founding documents because they want us to become a communist country. And those are the obvious people that are fighting against us. They're enemies to our freedom. And then we have people that claim that they're one of us, and they still apparently, in their black-pilled comments and arguments, want to abolish all of our founding documents. And of course, we don't have to do exactly what the founding fathers did if we want to rejuvenate this republic. But it's not a bad idea to look at what they did as a roadmap, since they won. And since it's one of the vast minority revolutions that actually brought something better. Because I've said this before, but I want to remind you and remind your friends of this. Be very careful before you revolt. Because in almost every other revolution that's happened throughout history, besides literally ours in our lifetime, certainly, and very, very scarce other exceptions, usually revolutions put people into further tyranny to a much, much greater extent. So you really, really have to be careful what you wish for, because people say, nope, I'm done with this. I'm done with any of the processes that were laid out in the founding documents. I'm done with all of it. I just want to fight. Well, first you have to decide what you want to fight for. And second of all, you have to have a strategy where you're actually going to win. Because all of the revolutions that we know of, almost all of them, resulted in more tyranny and less safety and less happiness for the people that revolted. And then there's probably many more, many, many, many more that we'll never even know about. Because like how I started off this stream, that losers generally don't get to write the history books. So I want you guys to think about that concept a lot. Now, I'm going to be streaming on here for about another half hour or so tonight. And then I have another stream that I need to get to that's already scheduled on Locals. That's another site, censorship free, where I can actually touch guns live. So the link to my Locals community is down in the description. I'm going to be heading over there and doing another live stream where I'm going to touch at least 1 or 2 guns. And I'll probably give you guys a chance to do some requests. So make sure you guys join over there. It's a totally separate platform from YouTube, and it does not have the same terms and conditions. But while we're on YouTube, I'm going to say hello to Susan Wiki, right? And all the YouTube employees. Look, I know there's some YouTube employees that like the channel. And just because I'm in a good mood, let's go, Brandon. The former vice president, the most popular and the most fortified of all time. Just think about that. And that's according to Time Magazine, which is a NewsGuard certified source. I saw we had some generous super chats come in. I want to read those real quick. And then I want to talk about some other things that I've been doing to get involved in Michigan. So, but all of you that are in the other states, hang out, because you could just substitute the word Michigan for your state. I'm trying to give you guys some ideas and encouragement. And I did go to Lansing, Michigan yesterday. And look, the whole thing is doom and gloom, obviously. But within that, knowing the reality of the situation I'm walking into, I actually got some encouragement. I'm going to share a couple stories with you guys. And I want you guys to start getting a lot more involved than you are now. And especially your friends. Definitely get those friends that are like, whatever, leave me alone. You know what I'm saying? Really trying to encourage you guys, because it's very, very important. We cannot win this game unless you guys are willing to play. Seriously. Mateo with the 260 super chat. Thanks, man, for all your support. 260 Remington, if anyone was wondering. Maybe we could have a contested debate between 260 Remington and 6.5. 260 Remington. You don't hear about that much, but great cartridge. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Mike McClune, what's happening, man? Thanks for being such a long-time channel supporter. I appreciate you, dude. 454. That could go 2 ways, guys. Let me read here. Casal, not just a BB Chevy engine. There you go, man. It could go either way. And here's the thing, Mateo. I like you. You're a good dude, but Mike McClune kind of just one-upped you there. Thanks for the generous super chat, man. I appreciate it, dude. I liked you, Mateo, with the 260, but McClune got you. Double whammy. Casal, very powerful handgun round, primarily in revolvers, right? And then he said Chevy big block. So, bye, Mateo. Not so much. Thanks, Mike McClune. I appreciate it, man. Shout out to the 260, though, for any other fans. Hey, Mateo's my friend, but I had to call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? Fun to learn. Thanks for the super chat, man. 350, legend. He said a gallon of gas to get to the Capitol. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate it, dude. If I'm coming from my shop, it costs me about 2 gallons each way. So just one person out of the thousands of people that'll watch this just paid for 25% of my gas to go to Lansing again. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. Lots of you guys are chipping in. I wasn't dismissing the rest of you. I was just saying one dude just paid for a quarter of the gas. That's awesome, man. Infamous Twin with a super chat. Thanks, man. Chipping in on some more gas money. He said, Pennsylvania here. Blessings, brother. 2-8 for life. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate the encouragement. And I have a lot of friends in Pennsylvania. Your state's a lot like mine as far as, look, dude, there's lots of good people in Pennsylvania, lots of good people in Michigan. We're not all far left-wing libbies, but your government pretty much went to almost straight blue now, right? Just like mine did here in Michigan. So shout out to you guys. I keep up the good fight, man. I'm going to talk about a few things in a minute here and try to do as much of that as you and your friends can do in Pennsylvania as possible. Marco Polo, thanks for the super chat, man, and for being a channel member. He says, 2A for life. Call your reps. Look, guys, it takes 5 minutes. I said it last week. I'm just reminding you. Look, dude, everybody in the United States House of Representatives and in the United States Senate, every one of them knows about the pistol brace rule. Literally everyone. Which way do you want them to go with it? Look, it's through the executive branch, and it's a perversion of power, and that power should not lie at all in the executive branch. We know that. Well, we need to convince the legislative branch to do something about it. Look, my friend John Crump left a super chat last week. He said, this is how the sausage is made, guys. They introduce bills like repeal the ATF, repeal the NFA. And it's unfortunate in my comment section how many people just either laugh at it or say they hate it. It's like, guys, we didn't get here overnight. Okay, nearly 250 years ago, Ben Franklin said a republic if you can keep it. And we've had the degradation of this republic ever since. You can't do it overnight, but that's how they get these bills. You start off with a bill that's way over here, okay, on the right, we'll just say. And they want to do this. And then it's like, well, hold on, maybe we can't quite repeal the ATF right now, but we can maybe take like half their powers away. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that them having half the power is a good thing. But if you're going to cut up a tree, first you have to chop it down. Then you have to section it into logs that are manageable enough to carry before you can take them to the log splitter, split them, and then put them in your wood stove. So remind people, don't conflate things. Just because it's like, look, I want all of the NFA gone. I want the ATF gone. All gun control is unconstitutional. I will not be happy, and I will not stop fighting till every gun control law is gone. That's where I stand. I've said it a million times, but in case somebody's new here, all of them. But if I want to get rid of all of them, I first need to get rid of the first one and the second one and the third one and the fourth one, right? How the sausage is made somehow seems like an ugly process, but especially for people that can't see the forest through the trees. For those of you that say, and not you guys watching, but those that do say, and you'll see comments like this, probably if you guys want some fun, come back and read the comment section of this, or look at my community post I made yesterday, or look at my last video. You guys will see what I'm talking about. There's plenty of subject matter there. Okay, I wouldn't make this stuff up. It's there. People are going to say, oh, nope. If we can't repeal every single gun control law, literally tomorrow, it's a complete waste of time. If 2A says that, look, putting up these bills actually matters because it can start chipping away and knock that tree down so we can start chopping it up, they'll say it's ridiculous because if we literally like repeal the NFA, it won't happen. It can't happen. Well, guess what? If I was to play, I'm just going to think of somebody that's awesome at sports. If I was to have a passing contest with Aaron Rodgers of the NFL, he's going to beat me no matter what. Wait a minute, though. If I don't go on the field with him, he's going to beat me no matter what. And if I go on the field with him, there might be a 99% chance he's going to beat me. But what if he throws a routine pass and something happens and he tweaks a ligament? Even though I can barely throw the thing, I might be able to beat him. You have to start somewhere. Yes, if me or you just runs and flails wildly up to the ATF office, boom, done. 0% chance. A 0% chance. And that's why I'm trying to encourage you guys from getting let down from these comment sections on YouTube and many, many other places. No, of course, bozo, that's not what... But look, that's what they'll say. Don't call your rep. Ooga looga, booga looga, right now, Lexington Green, bring it to the steps. Right. Yeah, you go do that by yourself, go ahead. You'll lose no matter what. Literally. And the Founding Fathers, if they would have done that on day one when they got ticked off, they would have lost too, obviously. And they knew that. That's why they didn't do that. Look, they wrote to the King of England when it actually took effort. Do you know how hard it was to make a piece of paper back then? Do you know how hard it was to find the right quill, pluck from the right bird, and how hard it was to make the ink and dip it in there and write? And they'd have to dip like... They wrote more letters than probably almost anyone you know ever wrote when it was actually hard to write a letter. So I'm standing against the notion that it's not patriotic to call and write your congressman. You need to. They all know about it right now. Guarantee you there is not one person in the 435 member lower chamber, that would be the House of Representatives, or the 100-member upper chamber, which is the United States Senate. All 535 of them know about the pistol brace ban. Literally provably. What way are they going to go with it? Congress could have a major influence on this right now. So think about that for a minute. Thanks, Marco. DLD After Dark, what's happening, man? How you doing? Thanks for the super chat. And thanks for always fighting the good fight over on your channel, man. He says, thanks for the inspiration. Keep it up, Potato Chip. Well, thanks, man. And look, I don't want everybody to like talk just like me. If you think I'm giving the best message, share this channel, share the video, say, hey, friend, neighbor, whoever, I think you might want to watch this guy's video. That's awesome. I'll do as much of the talking as I can and help you out with that. But I want you guys to just think about this for a minute and start thinking about ways that you want to have conversations. Think about which reps you're going to call. Everybody here, and I'm going to explain this real quick, because I don't think some people know this, and that's fine, because I didn't always know this, so why would you always know this? Okay. On the federal level, the United States of America, they assemble in Washington, D.C. Okay. And you are going to have one state representative to the United States Congress that's within your state. They're not a state representative, but within your state, you are going to have one representative that represents you in Congress. Literally only one. People say, I called all of my federal reps with an S. Cool. I'm awesome that you're calling people. You only have one. Okay. And then you have two senators. Now, we could get into constitutional amendments and why I disagree. At one time, they were elected by your state legislator. They are no more. It's a direct democracy. There was problems happening on the state legislator level where people were bribing and basically buying their seat to the Senate. That was wrong. But then they're buying seats now with big super PACs and foreign interests. And then we have a direct democracy where we elect senators, and that's two wolves in one sheep voting on what's for dinner. There were problems with how it was starting to play out by the 1800s. But with that said, electing senators with a straight democracy within your state, not a good idea. Okay, tangent's over. You have two United States senators. And then there is typically a president of the United States. In this case, we have a former vice president in the White House. So if you're calling on the federal level about braces, bump stocks, frames and receivers, triggers, a whole litany of things, because it's all really the same conversation. It seriously is. We get stuff like the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals saying that bump stocks are not only not machine guns, but that they can't make all these rules. That actually helps out with the triggers, the frames and receivers, the jigs, the braces. It's all connected together. Just remember that. And don't dare run around the internet and say, I don't care about bump stocks. I don't care about a trigger. I only care about braces. No, you need to care about all of it because it's all the same thing. It's Chevron deference. It's overreaching bureaucracy. It's tyranny. It's all the same thing. And if we defeat one of them, they basically all get defeated. So remember that. That's who you call. The United States Congress makes laws. The House, the Senate, and then the executive branch has to either sign the law or not sign the law, or veto. Now you have your state level. You are going to have, now states may vary, but I'm going to talk about Michigan. There might be different names for these, but I think you're still only going to have two on the state level. You will have your state representative, and in Michigan it would be in the Michigan House of Representatives. My representative, she's awesome. Her name's Jamie Thompson. Just hung out with her yesterday. I also have a Michigan state senator. Not to be confused with my federal senators, which are Stabenow and Peters, but Joe Bellino is my Michigan state senator. He also assembles in the Capitol building in Lansing. Jamie Thompson assembles as my representative in the Capitol building in Lansing. All of you have a Capitol somewhere. Homework assignment for the weekend. Find out where it's at. That'd be awesome. If you can go there, go there. Get the address that you can write to. Get the email address for your state senator, for your state representative. It might be called assemblyman. Okay, same thing though, right? Some states are considered commonwealths, and look, there's different names for things, and in certain manners it actually matters. What I'm talking about, it doesn't matter what they're called. Your state rep, your state senator. Find out who they are. Because first of all, your states can have a huge effect on this federal overreach and federal gun legislation. And also just remember, 90-something% of the laws that actually truly affect you in your real everyday life come from the state level. No, they really do. And as proven by election turnouts, people rarely even show up for midterm elections compared to showing up every 4 years for the presidential election. A lot of people think, well, voting for president, it's all that matters. The rest is all ancillary. And that's kind of backwards. Saying that 10% of what affects your actual life matters more than 90%. But I don't think it's that people really look at it that way. I don't think many intelligent people would sit there and tell you, I'm going to focus on 10% of what affects my life over the 90%. I just don't think they realize that. Laws that happen within your states literally affect your actual day-to-day life more than what's on the federal level. And if you look at some states that are willing to violate the Constitution in extreme radical ways, all states are violating the Constitution in some form. Our government's messed up right now, guys. Clearly, obviously, too many people said, leave me alone, sat home, did nothing for too many years. Not just you and your generation, but every last person since the founding of this country's done too much of that. In some cases, more or less. But some are extremely radical and just anti-Constitution and trying to shred every last word of it. Other states are actually standing up against the federal government. They'll use the term states' rights. I hate that term because states don't have rights. No form of government has rights. Your township doesn't have rights. Your county doesn't have rights. Neither does the state. Neither does the federal government. People, me and you, are the only people that have rights. Think about that for a minute. If you're talking about the balance of power between states and the federal government, it literally states in the 10th Amendment that we the people have the most power, and then states have more power than the federal government. So that's why getting a hold of your state representative, in my case, Jamie Thompson, I'm just telling you what her name is because she's awesome, but at the same time, go look yours up. As many people as possible in the chat, tell me who your state rep is. If you can. If not, look it up. This isn't like a shame each other. Just, if you know your state rep, tell me their name. What about your state senator? What's your state senator's name? You literally have to know their name before you can even possibly know how they voted or be able to look up their phone number or their email address or their actual email address. There we go. Band talk. What's happening, man? Diana DeGette. Okay. Satan herself, he said. Hey, you had to know who she was, right? And find out a little bit about her before you could say that. Okay. Now, obviously, that would be an opinionated phrase that you said there, to be fair, but I'm sure that's a well-researched opinion because I know you well enough. So you did your research. You live in a blue state. But you have to know what your enemy is before you can possibly defeat it, right? I said state rep and state senator, guys. Okay? I'm not going to call anybody out because this is literally the last thing I want to do is like make anyone embarrassed. But I am seeing out of the corner of my eye some United States senators. This is fun. I know you guys are like, you can't give me homework. You're not you're watching the 2A Edu channel. Duh. Okay. Homework assignment. I'm going to ask you guys again this next weekend. Who's your state rep? Who's your state senator? You need to know who they are first, okay? I'm not giving you too much at once. We're going to spread this out throughout the rest of the semester. Know their name first, okay? Know the name of your capital, okay? And then also know who your United States congressman is, your United States rep, and your United States senators. You'll have 2 of those. Every state has 2 senators. Unless there's states that are the exception to Michigan, I believe every state is going to have one. You're going to have 1 representative and 1 state senator. And they're totally different. And the Constitution acknowledges them differently. So just keep that in mind. I hope I'm not boring you guys that know more about this than me, but we got to start from the ground up. And if you know more about it than me, hold on a minute. tell your friends this, because I guarantee you your friends don't know. I guarantee you a bunch of your friends don't know. JJ Rainey with the member super chat said it's we the people, not we the government. Yes, and that's why people need to get involved with their government. And what I mean by get involved with is I don't mean cohort with them, or if the government's a swamp, I don't mean like go join the swamp and bask in it and take part in all the sin and the no, that's not what I mean at all. But if you wanted to drain the swamp, you'd have to get up to it enough to identify where it's at, what it is, and where you would start digging those trenches to start draining it out of there, the slurry, the sludge. If you're going to fix a pipe to it for all the stuff to come out, okay? You have to at least approach it. I see my friend Frank in here. We were talking about this topic. I'm not going to say too much of his personal information, but I know the general field he's in. Frank, if somebody says, this job site is a complete disaster, and we've got water standing all over the place, and it's messing with us, we can't do our work. Okay, nobody wants to go in the muck and mud, but somebody has to get up near it to start those pumps going, or to get that backhoe out there and start trenching an escape route for it. So don't anybody conflate what I'm saying here. I'm not saying like, oh, there's this huge problem, so go join the problem and become part of the problem. No, I'm saying know your enemy, know what's going on, so you can actually have access to it to fix it, to remedy it. And here's something where I got a little bit of encouragement yesterday. I saw another super chat, Linda. If you could bring that up for me, I want to read it in a second here. I know you have to manually grab those member super chats because of StreamYard. But I went to Lansing. I went to the Capitol. Now, I was the guest of honor, if you will, for my state representative, Jamie Thompson. I sat on the House floor with her during the opening day session. And the fact that she thought enough of the Second Amendment, because I'm not the Second Amendment, obviously, but that's what I represent. That's my main focus. I care about all these other issues, too, intimately. It's just, it's hard to focus on a million things at once. So I'm highly focused on the Second Amendment. And the Second Amendment meant so much to her that she picked me to invite me because she said, I have the Second Amendment's back no matter what. And she considered me to be one of the leading advocates of the Second Amendment within her district. I think that's fair to say. I didn't say I was the most. She just thought that. So that's why she had me there, because that's one of her pillars. That's one of the hills that she doesn't want to die on. She wants to win on, clearly, and she's gonna. But if she did have to die on a hill, it's going to be the Second Amendment. I thought to myself, well, that's great, but is there any other people that care? So I went to the opening day ceremony. I showed you guys some pictures just to say, look, guys, I'm getting involved. Here's some encouragement. But that's like a fun day. There's like, a breakfast, there's a lunch, there's this and that. Okay, well, I went to the party, right? Which, great, awesome. Well, I told you guys I was going back, and I just went back yesterday, and I'm going back again. And again and again and again. I'm not going to stop till all threats of gun control are gone and until every gun control law in Michigan's repealed. Might not happen in my lifetime, which means I'm basically going to have to keep going the rest of my life. That's fine with me, because a lot of people died a lot younger than me on battlefields. So if they were willing to die for this country, so I might be able to be free, I think I can keep going to the Capitol as much as possible for the rest of my life. I mean, it's a easy trade, and I'm really lucky that I get to take that trade. So I went there yesterday, and it was a Monday, no nothing Thursday. And apply this to all 50 states, guys. I'm going to talk about Michigan here because that's my lived experience, but this applies to all of you wherever you live. I went there on a Thursday, and it was such the session is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Not all months out of the year, but when they're in session. I was particularly focused on the House. The Senate's another thing. I'm only one person. So I went up there, and my plan was to watch the session from the gallery. I'm not a Michigan representative, so I only got to sit on the House floor once during that opening day. So I was going to go sit up in the gallery where you can peer down on the live session as it's going on. Well, guess what? The Democrats were a no-show. They canceled the session, which got rid of half of my plans. So instead, I just doubled up on what my secondary plan was. I walked around the Capitol just a little bit. I wanted to take a couple pictures. I wanted to inquire about a few things there. And then I went right across the street to what's called the House Office Building, otherwise known as the Anderson House Office Building. When I say across the street, it's a couple 100 feet from the front doors of the Michigan Capitol in Lansing, right across the street. That's where the state reps actually have their offices and their staff. So you walk through the door, it's protected by the sergeant at arms, and you walk up and basically state your business, and they log you in, and then you proceed through. So I went up there, went straight to my representative's office, because she's my representative, okay? And that's who you should focus on right away, is your representative. And then if you have the willpower and the time, all of them. So I went in there. One of her aides, great guy. Both of her aides are awesome dudes, by the way. It was his birthday. So they were having a birthday party. She had like a whole room full of representatives and aides in there. I'm like, cool. They're having a party. I saw Devin. It was his birthday. I said, happy birthday, man. Nice to see you. And I'm like, I'll be back. So then I went down the hall, and the next rep's office I went to was Angela Regas' office. I've talked about her. She's a firecracker. Super Pro 2A. She's a shaker. She's already had all of her committee assignments stripped. They stripped her committee assignments, and she's like, okay, you can't take anything else from me. So she's fighting twice as hard now. Some of you guys may have her as your rep. Even if you don't, I'm trying to offer you guys encouragement. And in all these 50 states, you're going to have some fighters from within. You need to realize that. She actually wasn't feeling too good, and they didn't have a session that day, so they didn't actually have to be there. Sometimes you're sick, you go home. But I was talking to one of her aides. I'm just going to give his first name. His name was Noah. Dude, super cool dude. We're talking, and I'm in the Capitol building. So it's like, dude, boring, whatever. I'm in the office building. We get to talking for a few minutes. I didn't know him till yesterday. I just met him. And we're talking for a few minutes about guns and this and that. He's like, dude, I'm thinking about getting an AK. I'm thinking about one of those PSA AKs. I'm like, dude, go watch my channel. Me and a bunch of my friends literally shot 1,000 rounds through one in an hour. And then I was like, dude, I went to the factory, check out these pictures. I'm literally sitting here having a blast with this dude that's a Michigan House of Representatives. He's one of their staff. He works in the office. So here's what I'm trying to tell you guys. You never know. You could actually have fun. I'm talking AKs. We're talking ARs. We're talking about going out shooting when the weather gets better. So there's actually fun stuff going on. Now, I was mainly there because, look, the governor of Michigan, yeah, family-friendly channel. I just said the governor of Michigan. I just looked down there, and yeah. I'm just going to say that. You guys can say what you want. And if Susan deletes your comment, it's not me. I don't moderate my comments. Okay. The governor of Michigan. She called for gun control and said it was just going to be the start. She wants what she's going to call extreme risk protection orders, which are red flag laws. Some of you already have them, and you need to fight like hell in your state legislature to get rid of them now. Some states, there's a threat of that happening, and you need to make sure that threat goes away now. There's this big misconception that some people think it's a compromise. These are red flag laws. You can call it whatever you want. Extreme risk protection orders. We have so many laws and remedies right now for these situations. If they're actually dangerous, it's not even funny. Plenty of laws on the books. Way too many laws on the books. Now, a red flag is called take the guns first, then due process, which means no due process. Because if you take first, then due process, ex parte court hearing, seizing property without due process of law, this literally undermines the whole entire principles of this country. It's not just a Second Amendment issue. It's literally a whole Bill of Rights. It's a whole human existence issue. Look at the guy in Maryland that was red flagged. Law-abiding citizen had no reason to believe the cops would be coming to his house. So when he thought there was criminals breaking in, cops exercising no-knock warrants, criminal. I think I just repeated myself, but I digress. They came in his house, busted the door, and he comes to the door with a gun, and they shot him and killed him. People die from red flag laws because the red flag laws are there. You guys have various different support or different degrees of maybe your local police. A lot of people will say, well, I back my local county sheriff, and some of you have good constitutional sheriffs, and you should back them. Some of you don't. That's going to be all over the spectrum. Sign off in the comments as much as you want. pretty much everybody hates the ATF. That's obvious. Like everyone with a sane brain hates the ATF. You're not only putting the good citizens of the community at risk, but if there was a good sheriff's deputy, he either has to quit his job because that's what he should do if he's told, ordered he has to do a red flag law. But you could be putting a deputy and giving him orders that he's going to have to go get in a gunfight with one of his neighbors, one of his colleagues, somebody he knows in town. It's literally insane. But for some reason, and this is what we all need to work on together, word on the street is red flag law is the compromise. No, it's not a compromise. And I was talking to a Michigan representative yesterday in the hallway. I went to a few offices, met more in the hallway. He was not anymore a former cop for a long time, and he said that no, he knows a lot of people that are going to quit if these go through. And he agreed. He's like, no, there's plenty of laws on the books already. If somebody truly is an imminent threat to themselves, to others, and that it's a very dangerous situation for local law enforcement as well as the person that's within their home. Red flag laws are completely nuts. I had a feeling they might have dropped one yesterday until I realized the Democrats are in power and they couldn't get their act together enough to hold a session. That's, in my opinion, the way to summarize it. I'm looking for it any day. I'm looking for universal background checks to pop up. I'm looking for what they call so-called safe storage laws. Yeah, making the criminal safe from you. Because, look, criminals don't follow laws. So the criminal doesn't follow the safe storage law. They come in your home in the middle of the night with a gun, cock-locked, ready to rock. When seconds matter, police are only minutes away. And then you have to spend 5 minutes fumbling through your safe. That's going to get a lot of good people killed. In states that have enacted these, it hasn't made people any safer. It's made it more dangerous for good people, for the law-abiding person. Because remember, any law only affects the law-abiding citizen. The criminal doesn't follow laws because they're a criminal. This is obvious. Good people generally don't need laws. Bad people generally and almost never follow laws. This is obvious. But some people need to be reminded of the obvious, because at the end of the day, these state reps and senators, they're just people. And I actually met a lot of good people. I had briefly met on opening day, but meeting and saying, hello, this is blah, blah, shaking hands, but everyone's doing that the first day. That's one thing, but I actually got to sit down and have some conversations with some Michigan reps yesterday. And I'm actually encouraged. One more time, look, I'm not like some ignorance is bliss type of guy. We're in a world of trouble in Michigan. We're going to lose. In Michigan, it's Article 1, Section 6, the Second Amendment. We're going to lose that in Michigan quick if people don't start getting their act together. Like right now. Start emailing when this stream's over. Well, I'm going to locals when this stream's over, but after that, tomorrow. I'm telling you guys, everybody in the Michigan legislature knows about red flag laws right now. They know about that whole laundry list that Gretchen is demanding. They all know about it. Same thing with how the U.S. Congress all knows about pistol braces right now. They all know about this in Michigan. And they're getting calls. And they're getting letters. But they're not just getting them from you. They're getting them from the other side. I walked into several representatives' offices. One of them said I was the second person that's walked in since the session had started on the 11th that wasn't a lobbyist. I mean, they're people in their own personal capacity, but when they come in as a lobbyist, they don't really count as person. They're a lobbyist. At least that's how I look at it in my head. Somebody said, about 10 people had walked in just as an advocate like me, just Joe Blow off the street. Look, guys, I don't go there representing in any groups. I support some gun rights groups because I just want to support them, but I'm not on the board of, I don't represent. I literally go there as me on behalf of us, we the people. So like someone that's literally just walking in there that's not part of any lobbying, somebody said maybe 30. Now, if I were to opine, I don't think it's going to be that much different in all of these 50 states. Do you realize that if you walk into your representative's office, call their staff, schedule an appointment, find out when their office hours are, there's 10 million people that live in Michigan. You could walk into a rep's office Tuesday and make up 1/30th of the people that's walked in there. Just people off the street that say, I have a concern. I have an issue that's important to me. And if they're against red flag laws and they're supporting you to see fit what is most likely to affect your safety and happiness, you need to support them and you need to get behind them, because you're going to be there to support them, and then 10 other people are going to call or write and try to tear them down. That's how that works. Now, if they don't agree with you, like my friend Red, Band Talk, if they're the opposite of you, then you're probably going to have to sit there and think of a way to convince them while they're wrong. And you might not convince them, but that's fine. You have to try. I can never beat Aaron Rodgers in a passing contest, no matter what, except for I technically could, maybe, if I got lucky enough. But if I don't go on the field, there's zero chance I could win. Look, no matter what, you are going to lose 100% of the games that you don't play. And if you've exhausted all these methods, you might be motivated enough for other methods later on. But if you're not willing to call or write, that's the very least you can do. Don't call once, don't write once, call often, write often. On the federal level for certain issues, on the state level for other issues. Some states have more issues that need fighting than others. I get it. And there's a lot more to life than just the Second Amendment, but that's what I focus on. Because I think it's the most important, because to have all these other things we cherish, we need the second. If you could live in a perfect world where the other side wasn't going to do anything, you wouldn't have to do anything. But here's the problem. The other side's not going to stop. They're never, ever going to stop. They're of a hive mind. Queen bee puts out a pheromone and drums her wings in a certain way, and they're all commanded to listen, and they drone in and out. So since the other side ain't going to stop, and you ain't going to be able to make the other side stop by just saying, I'm going to go hide and not acknowledge what the other side's doing. No, that's actually ensuring they're going to win. So I know you don't want to do this, Band Talk. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to ask you. You live in a very liberal state, and you're a lot more liberal on a lot of things than I am. But when it comes to the Constitution and this republic, if we can keep it, I actually look at you as being very conservative. I ask you to still call and write and do what you can. And I truly mean that. I'm asking. I'm not telling you what to do. And I'm just picking on Band Talk here because, first of all, I know him. We've hung out even outside of YouTube, and I know where he lives. And I know where I live right now, too. It's not... it's pretty blue, right? And you know what? You're going to call your rep Band Talk, and she's going to say, whatever. Okay. Now move on to your other plans. But at least you can't sit there and say, well, I was kind of a punk. Because here's the problem. You want to say, I was a punk and just cranked it right up to 11 without going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now 11. See, if you're building a building and you start off with the foundation and then you just instantly put the roof on it, there's no there. It's going to collapse. You have to build the foundation, then the walls, then the roof. Then I guess the chimney cap would be cranking it up to 11. But you can't put the chimney cap on the chimney if there's no chimney. Think about that for a minute. And then there may be other things that are needed. I'm not dismissing that. I hope not. Who knows? But I don't know why doing nothing has gotten to be so cool in this country, and why. And I'm not talking about you at all anymore, Band Talk. I'm just segueing. There's a lot of people that I believe think about it like this. They go into their room and they turn on Call of Duty, and it's a video game. I don't play video games, but I'm sure they're very fun. You go on and you turn on the game and you get your controller, and you're instantly in a battlefield, and you shoot and you kill, and then you get defeated and you die, and then you just like start over, or like just press this button, which is a med pack, and you come back. It's really easy to just go straight to fighting a war in a video game. But in real life, it's not so easy. There is no just start the game over. There is no I'm dead, hurry up and push a button and throw me a med pack. It like literally doesn't work that way. So I think there might be a lot of people, and maybe some of your friends. I don't think anyone that's watching this long thinks this way. Probably none of you, but it's something to bring up, and it's something to bring up in conversations. When I say future conversations, talk to somebody tomorrow. Call your state rep, call your state senator, call your congressman, call your federal senators. Also call some friends. That's the most important people you can get a hold of, quite frankly. And when you're brainstorming and encouraging each other and coming up with plans, remind them to also continue to plan, call their state reps, federal reps, etc., right? Look, we can do two things at once, and we have to. But a lot of people must think it's a video game where it's like, dude, it's just as easy to go on the battlefield and call your reps. I've never served, but I think I can unequivocally say, no, it's not easier to go on a battlefield. It's only in video games. And I know it's more fun to play video games, and it's more fun to sit on your computer and watch YouTube videos and play TikTok or Scrabble or whatever game or Chinese spyware that you're encountered in that day. But if you want to even be able to live in a country where you can still sit around and do all these things, it's a republic if you can keep it. And a lot of places in this world, the last thing they would have time for is to play a video game because they're under so much tyranny. They don't have the money. They don't have the time. Bombs are going off too much around them. We can't play Call of Duty. A bomb just went off and blew the power line down. I mean, think about that for a minute. I don't know who could really want that. See, when I grew up, computers were just getting introduced. And I grew up with computers, but I didn't grow up on computers. And I'm starting to wonder if now we have generations of people that are adults and are of fighting age, if they've literally been raised now around and on are two different things. If people have been raised on computers and video game systems now for so long that they think Call of Duty is actual war. And they must. Because I guess there's the old saying, there's no fool like an old fool. But I'm guessing a lot of these people must be younger that don't realize that we haven't even always had video games and that video games are not like reality in so many ways. Because for all the people in comment sections, and I'm not just talking my channel, I'm talking all over the place, that say, I'm not going to talk, I'm not going to call, I'm not going to write. That includes calling your friends too, guys. Don't forget that. I'm just going to go straight to war, straight to battle. Man. That sounds like somebody that's only put a cartridge in before. And I've never fought in any wars. I've never served in the military. But I've heard about it. I hear about it from people that have served in recent times, and God bless them, they're all dead now. But I had a lot of family members years ago that served in World War II. People that fought in the island hopping campaign. Nasty, dirty warfare. Just, makes me want to cry just remembering some of the stories about stuff I've heard about. Look, the way that was described to me, and just felt like sitting in the room with some of these veterans that are deceased family members of mine and also good friends of mine that I've known over the years, just hearing about some of this stuff, it's like, dude, that ain't popping in a cartridge. You don't pop in a cartridge. It's just that's not the same thing. It can't be the same thing. I hope the veterans that are watching right now that have served in combat roles, please chime in and fill in the blanks. I'm just talking about the bigger picture of it. We need to make the call so that we don't have to have those types of battles. And I would argue, if you want to know who would actually do it if it was necessary, if the Republic called upon them and drafted them into such a scenario, I think it's more probable the people we're willing to write, to call, to not only encourage things in the United States court system, but to also win the court of public opinion. I would think people partaking and winning at that have a way higher probability that they would fight in the other kind of way than the people that just run their suck on the internet And when they lose after they put the cartridge in, hit the reset button. I could be wrong, but I would bet a large portion of the money I have on it. I'll say that. Not a large amount of money, but a large portion of the very small amount of money I have. But I would bet money on that. I'm going to check up on the chats here, and then I have to hurry up and get out because I have a stream that's technically 3 minutes late. So, yeah, it says 10:45, but as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to be over on Locals, which is a censorship-free site, and we can definitely touch guns. James Kawasaki with a super chat. 223, thanks, man. I appreciate you, a channel member. He says, just barely less angry than 556. God bless. Well, God bless you, too. And, yeah, it's just barely less. Look, 223 and 556. I'm going to start a caliber war at the end of the stream here, but they're not the same, but almost. Just barely different, right, James? They're virtually the same thing. Will's Garage, God bless you, man. I'm glad you're here with us. I really am. From what I'm reading in your comment here, there's a high probability that you wouldn't be here right now. Band talk, public opinion is my war indeed. Dude, you're fighting, okay? I asked you if you wouldn't mind calling your rep. I ain't telling you what to do, dude. Like you would listen anyways. Look, you guys have to be fighting somewhere. In your state capitol building. In your representative's offices. And fighting doesn't mean just like in there with your hands. No. Don't go in there and get arrested. I don't want that. Fighting can be positive too. When you have a state representative, a state senator, I keep talking about states because states are supposed to have more power than the federal government. That's what the Constitution says. I believe that should be true as well. And your opinion actually matters on the state level. You're not going to convince them of the way they're supposed to vote if they don't know how you want them to vote. Let's start from there. And then if they don't listen, demand them. And then remove them from office. It's called elections. It's called primaries. There's ways that were spelled out by the founding fathers that had fought a very bloody war. What did they do? They spelled out actually a very peaceful process to remove tyrants too. And don't forget that. Of course they knew about the bloody process. They fought the Revolutionary War. It was a hot war. But they literally prescribed in the founding documents a very peaceful. I didn't say effortless. Freedom is never free. But they put out a very peaceful and productive way to remove people from office. And I encourage you guys to do that. Support the people that support you. Friends, family, state rep, state senator, United States congressman, United States senator. If they're supporting you, you better call them and say, keep fighting the good fight. I'm with you. I've got your back. Because there's a bunch of other people that are trying to get them to cave and go the other way. There's people saying, if you don't pass this, we're coming for you. I mean, if you don't pass the gun control, we're coming for your seat. Trust me, they're doing that. Fight the good fight where there's good, and you can find a lot of encouragement in that. And when you have to, try to persuade people as much as you can to change their mind. At least try. And if that doesn't work, because it a lot of times doesn't work, clearly, then start using the other methods. That's when you have to go over the politician's head and go to the people of America or the people of Colorado or of Michigan or Pennsylvania. You know, enough of you Pennsylvanians get in there and start talking in the town square, on the phone, on the internet, wherever you're talking. You say, no, enough of us are tired of Representative Smith, whoever that is. If there's a Rep Smith, I'm not talking about you because I don't know. But let's get rid of Representative Smith in Pennsylvania. There you go. Hey, we tried to talk to Representative Smith. He wasn't going to listen. Now there's a whole lot of us, and we want Representative Jones because we feel that he's going to suit our needs a lot better in our state legislature. That's literally how it works. You might go to your state capitol like I did yesterday and start talking about PSA AKs with a legislative aide. Cool dude, by the way. I'm looking forward to talking to him again. One more thing I'm going to leave you guys with. I went in and got this. This is a frequent visitors pass. So it just saves me a little time where I don't have to do the whole complicated check-in process. It's not even that complicated, but so I don't have to go through the It just allows me to get in a little quicker, okay? Because I am going to be a frequent visitor at the state capitol throughout this session. And then specifically in this case, the Michigan House Office building. So I go up there and they're like, okay, you got to go up to the 10th floor, I believe it was, go to this administration office. I'm like, oh boy, administration, the government, this ought to be fun, whatever. So I go in there. Guy comes out, cool dude actually, and he's like, how can I help you? I'm like, I wanted to get a frequent visitors pass. All right, right on, blah, blah, blah. He sees my hat. Second Amendment, huh? Starts talking about YouTube channels, people that he knows. He's talking about like Hickok 45. I think he was talking about, gosh, who were they? Iraq veteran, 8888. He's like, what's his name? Eric? I'm like, yeah, I actually know Eric. I've been to his event a couple times. I know him personally. Good guy. I'm talking about guns with the guy that was in charge of getting my ID badge printed. We started having a good time talking. You can actually still have a good time while otherwise being in hell. You know what I'm saying? Like going to Lansing, not good. Right, Jane Locke? What's happening? She says, our paths are going to cross in the Anderson House Office building, and they actually already have. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you up there, Jane. For sure. We need to coordinate and text each other, too, when we're going up there. I'm going to show you one more thing, and I'm kind of going over here, but I'm going to be real brief. Court cases are going our way. Calling Congress. I was watching Mr. Guns and Gears channel. Also a guy that I know in real life. Really nice guy, by the way. And he talked about how some bigger gun tubers, actually got Congress involved. And Congress helped put some heat on YouTube. That's what he said in his video on his channel. Calling Congress does nothing. This does nothing. That does nothing. Really? No, sometimes it actually does. So there you guys go. There's some encouragement. Although some gun channels got brought back, other ones got their strikes removed. It's still an ongoing process. Check the links down in the description for all the other places I'm at, especially locals. I'm going to be there in literally 5 minutes. But think about that. Mr. Guns and Gear and others got the United States Congress involved with what was going on with the YouTube policies. And I don't want to mischaracterize this video. Go watch it for yourself. It sounds like certainly in part that helped with the resolution. So there you go. There's a little bit of encouragement for you all. All right. I'll be back at my state's capital soon. If you guys want to go, if you don't know how to do it, look, reach out to me, send me an email, message me on locals, wherever like that. You can leave me a comment in the comment section if you're actually serious. And then, we'll figure out a way to reach out. If you guys want to meet me there, and I know what schedule's lining up, whatever, I'll give you a tour around the place. I'll tell you how to do it because it could be intimidating at first. I'll show you where to walk in. I'll walk you right to your representative's office if that helps. Seriously, that offer's genuine. If any of you want to meet me in Lansing, I will let you guys know soon what day I'm going next. And we can say, hey, I'll meet you at the front steps, and I'll walk you in there and show you how the process works, how to get in, where the elevator's at, and I'll walk you right up to their office. Because sometimes that can be intimidating, and we don't want any hurdles just blocking people right at the beginning. Like, well, I get lost in the hallway. Yeah, you actually might your first time. It's this big square, and there's many elevators. I know my way around there. I'll literally help you guys walk right up there. I'll say, there's your rep. Go say what you got to say. You do you, but I'll help you guys however I can. And I even know a little bit of history about the building, and I can even be like a half-baked version of a tour guide if you want me to. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I will see you guys over on Locals in just a couple minutes, and then I will see you back here on YouTube very soon. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and have a good one.